Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope you're all doing good today. So we're going to be playing with eye candy glow-in-the-dark powders today. I was kind of tooling around on Turner's Warehouse website looking at different micas and all kinds of stuff, and I found some glow-in-the-dark stuff. So I chose they have a couple different ones. They have some of the ones that are like, you know, it looks like a white powder basically, and then it turns like a glow in the dark. I decided to go for the ones that kind of have a color to them during the day. I don't know if you can see that. I guess I should put it on the overhead, huh? There we go. So that's what it looks like during the day. And then it glows, you know, some color. I'm not entirely certain which colors, you know, what glow color these things do. But we got a pink, a purple, and a yellow. If I can get it open. So I thought that'd be kind of fun. I've never tried these ones. I've tried similar, you know, things like this before in the past, but not a whole lot, not too often. I haven't done too many tests with this kind of thing, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to see how these things work. Now, one other thing that I also want to do is I have some of their like fluorescent powders. There's this one's Firebird Red, this one's UFO Green, and I, to be honest, haven't really played with these that much either. And I thought that would be kind of fun to kind of play with. Just to kind of see how these things go, and also kind of see how the fluorescent, you know, kind of matte like pairs up with the glow in the dark. So we'll get lots of different tests, and I have a little bit of a tip that I was messing around on the eye candy website, and I got a little bit of a tip for these types of things from their website that I wanted to share with you guys. I had never heard of this or thought of it before. So that's what we're going to do, and we're just going to make some pen blanks. We're going to go for the Gatling molds. They make things nice and easy. They turn out good, so why not? Let's just do it. So anyway, let's see here. Is there any other news or updates or things going on that I can think of? Not really. I will drop a link if anybody wants to check these glow powders. And then, like I said, they have other ones. I think they have the whole lineup on Turner's Warehouse website. I just decided, I've already seen, you know, I'm kind of guessing that their standard glow powders are probably pretty similar to every other glow powder on the planet. These ones were different though, having the color in them during the day. So that's what I was a little bit more interested in. I think most of us have seen the standard glow powders that just kind of look white. So let's see, who was here first? I think Kim was here. And Mike's over at the AAW Symposium. That sounds like fun. I haven't been kind of keeping an eye on. I am pretty buried with, man, life is getting crazy. We're actually moving out of our apartment into a rental home. And so that's going to be taking some time from me. So I'm kind of excited about having a little bit more space at home. But other things going on that my schedule's crazy right now. But yeah, the weather's nice, so I can't complain. So hopefully you guys are having a good time too. And Hugh will be watching tomorrow. Cool. We got Mark and Jim. Coral Marines resin art. That's cool. Let's see here. And of course, Kid Cooper's here. And Daryl. Nice. All right. So first things first, let's go for this tip. I want to kind of show you guys. We're gonna waste a little bit of material here, but I think it will be well worth. Hopefully this works, I guess, first of all, this tip thing. But I want to show you what happens when you're using, especially, I have used these fluorescents in the past, but I don't love them because they're like hard to mix in. It's very, I don't know, it's clumpy and it just doesn't really want to mix in with the resin. So, you know, I don't really use them that often, just because it's seriously kind of a pain. That one wasn't open yet. And it's kind of a shame because these are pretty cool, you know? And, I was, like I said, I actually went on the eye candy website, and glow powders are not typically as bad, but this stuff is a little bit similar. It's kind of powdery. And I'm not certain how easy it will be to mix in. But in their instructions, they say if it's hard to mix in, if you want to try and make it easier, they recommend adding a little bit of, like basically mixing it up. Put it in a cup. You put it in a cup and add a little bit of denatured alcohol. Let me go to their website. I just want to make sure that I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I want to double check and make sure that that was the instruction that they gave me, or you know, whatever that was on there. Let's see here. Pigments, glow in the dark. Where's the glow in the dark? There it is. And let's see here. Scroll down. Ratios. Description. Where did I find this? Ah, here it is. Are you having a difficult time mixing the pigments? Due to the granular nature of the specialty pigments, such as neons, glow-in-the-darks, etc., they may be difficult. If this is the case, place the pigments in a small cup. Yeah, use denatured alcohol and wet the pigments. Stir until it has the consistency of a paste. And so what that's going to do is, I'm guessing if it's in a paste form, that's going to be a whole lot easier to mix in. And I think part of the thing is they're asking you to use like a solvent, basically. And I do want to make one little note. If you're going to add something like denatured alcohol or acetone or do any of that kind of stuff and add it to your resin, it could slightly change the properties of the final cured product. So I do want to mention that. They may be a little bit chippier or brittle. I don't know yet. You know, we'll have to see. I'm not going to dump a ton of you know, alcohol in it, but that's one of the reasons also why I stay away from alcohol inks. Typically, sometimes you just can't really get away from it. You know, they have some advantages, being, you know, there's so many different shades, like tints of these things, that would be really difficult to mix on your own with the super concentrated alumilite dyes. So there are some advantages to using alcohol inks, but you're adding alcohol to your resin, which I tend to try to stay away from things like that as much as possible. But it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. I don't think it's going to make terrible blanks. I just want to give that little disclaimer first. So let's flip to this overhead view real quick. Yeah, it does show what they look like on the Turner's Warehouse website. That tip is worth the price of admission. Yeah, you could probably use isopropyl. I don't know that it really matters that much. Honestly, you could probably even use acetone, possibly. Acetone's a little bit harsher, but oh, I got some orange in this. And that thing exploded open. I'm gonna get rid of those little orange chunks. Okay. So first things first, what I want to do is I just want to show you guys what the problem is. Okay, that's, I think, also important. And like I said, I'm actually not even going to try the glow in the dark, because I don't think it's, I kind of doubt that the glow in the dark is as bad as these, but these things are absolutely horrible. They're just a real pain, and it's bad enough where I would highly recommend just, you know, what I would do in the past is I would just sit there and try and mix it into the Part A, but even that, it just doesn't really want to mix in. And so that's when I read that, I was like, oh, this ought to be pretty cool. So here's a cup. We're gonna put some resin in here, and we're just gonna kind of burn some, just to kind of show you what's kind of going on. I'm gonna get like, I don't know, 20 grams or so of each, 20 grams of Part A. And this is it doesn't matter what resin you're using either. Epoxy, urethane. This is Alumilite Clear Slow, but I don't think it's really gonna matter. I think the thicker resins might actually be worse, possibly. I don't know, because I don't really use thick resins, but I would imagine it's probably not any better. The thinner the resin, it might mix in. That's just generally how these things work anyway. Another one that's kind of problematic, it's not nearly on the level of these things, is micro pearl. That one can be kind of, you want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time. You know, when you use that one, just kind of know in advance that that one's going to be a little bit harder to get it to like actually mix in. And I think it's almost like it's hydrophobic. It doesn't really want to mix with the stuff for some reason. So I'm going to mix this up first. I'm going to zoom in. You can kind of see a little bit better here. And you know, if you're using like an epoxy or something like that, it's got 40 minutes of working time. This may not be particularly problematic. It doesn't necessarily matter if you have plenty of time. It's just, you know, Alumilite clears slow, especially in the summertime. You don't really have a whole lot of time to be messing with mixing in mica powders. So that's why I don't really even use it that much. Mark, oh, Daryl was asking. Yeah, I make that disclaimer as more of a, I don't think that you're going to have like, it's not going to be like you're turning polyester resin blanks. I don't think, you know, especially when you're talking like small amounts of alcohol. It's not that big of a deal. It is something where one of my problems is, I'm going to switch to this view while I'm talking here. One of my things is I sell pen blanks, all right? And so like in the scope of things, if you're just making a few blanks for yourself at home, it's not going to make any difference. And I don't think that it's going to be so noticeable that it's a problem. Where I run into issues and why I just stay away from certain things is I would feel like the way that I do things is I would have to turn 20 blanks, 20 pens out of like one blank just to see, you know, and I would even worry depending on which color, you know, alcohol ink it was. Like I would want to know for sure that, you know, what are people going to expect when they buy my blanks. I would rather just throw that out the window and not have to worry about it. It's not worth my time. So I don't think it's a big deal, and I think they're going to it's probably not even going to be noticeable. I just want to make sure that I do mention that when you start adding other chemicals in the mix, it can have, you know, it can create different effects on the final product. So just to clear that up, I don't want to scare anybody. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But you know, just if you're selling blanks, especially if you're selling a product, you know, and you don't want to be surprised by customers being like, hey, this thing blew up on my lathe, you know, and you're like, what? So I'm going to just get a good scoop of this red stuff here and put it in there. We'll give it two decent little scoops here, and I'll kind of hold it up, and most of it kind of mixes in okay, but you just get these little clumps that just are persistently not mixing in very well, although this is looking not that bad. Well, yeah, so I don't know if can you see, is it picking it up? Like there's still just chunks. I guess that's what it is. I haven't used this in a while. I just knew that it was kind of a pain. And it just, you keep mixing and keep mixing and keep mixing, and it just seems like no matter how much you mix, there's still these little chunks that just don't seem to want to mix in. And that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but you know, this is a pretty thin, you'd have to put a lot of this stuff in and I don't even know if it would ever necessarily make it really opaque. But you would have to put quite a bit in, and I'm still pulling this stuff out, and there's little clumps, little bits, little dots. Oh, I just dribbled it all over the place. Make sure I don't put it in one of the other colors. You know, there's still chunks. I don't know if you can, I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but there's a good particle. I don't know. I can see little particles in there. And I mean, I could sit here and stir this for 20 minutes and I'm not certain that it would really mix in. So let's set this aside and let's give it a shot with adding some alcohol. And they don't say how much to add. So I'm just gonna add a little bit to the bottom of this cup. And then I'm gonna dump some of this in. Let me get another stir stick here. But what I'm hoping is that the alcohol, yeah, see, it kind of dissolves it a little bit better. Yeah, and I'm not seeing it now. I probably added way too. I'm going to add more of the powder. You probably don't even need that much alcohol, but yeah, this works significantly better. It's like it's paint at this point. I might recommend wearing eye protection stirring this around because it seems like the thing is like the stir stick is kind of just scraping and spitting little chunks on the side. You don't want to get this stuff in your eyeball. I don't know if that's coming through on the screen, but I'm looking at this and I don't see any particles. Still pretty liquid. So I mean, I don't think you even need even close to how much alcohol that I dumped in the bottom of this. It seems to really dissolve the stuff pretty well. Once again, I'm really not seeing particles in there. So I would say that little bit of information is like kind of a game changer, to be honest, because I really just wouldn't even use that stuff because it's just such a pain. And what you end up getting in the end, is little floaties and stuff. They're either a couple of different things, and like I said, I haven't used those that much, but what you end up getting is either a bunch of floaty things in the resin, and it's fairly see-through anyway, so they would probably not look that good, or you get things that are floating to the top and a bunch of stuff on the surface, or they sink. And so, one way or the other, there's probably going to be something in your blank that you don't really, it's going to look kind of funky. So this paste thing, much better, much better. It's kind of a thicker, we're getting to a kind of a thicker paste. Now, I didn't measure out how much alcohol I put in there, but what I would probably recommend doing, because the problem is now there's really not that much. I mean, that might work out pretty well, but like I think you're better off pre-mixing a lot of this stuff, beforehand. Now, this is a pretty big jar here. I mean, I could probably, figure out a measurement of alcohol, where, like maybe using like a measuring cup. Do I have one? Yeah, like maybe use some sort of a measuring cup and do some tests and see, okay, so I added like, a quarter ounce, half ounce, whatever numbers you want to use, milliliters of alcohol, and then see how many like, teaspoons or scoops or, however you want to do it. Add some and see how much it takes, what ratio does it take to get you to the right, to kind of, I would say like this consistency, maybe a little bit thinner. But I mean, that's probably pretty good, a pretty thick consistency, and we can kind of see. Now I can do that right now, actually, if you want. Yeah, it's pretty cool. With the little chunk, that's funny. Yeah, let's see here. How much? I'm gonna grab a half teaspoon thing. I've got a little cup. Do I have a slightly bigger one? I thought I had different sizes of these things. Let me see how this, there we go. 1 tablespoon, teaspoon, milliliters. I don't know how much of this I want to make. Let's go with the small one because I think in most cases you're probably not going to need a gigantic bucket of this stuff. So let's flip over to the overhead here. Let's see if we can figure out how much this actually takes. I think what I'm going to do is go for milliliters. It doesn't matter what measurement system. It just seems like milliliters seems to be kind of the lowest one. Teaspoons would work. And it's like every 5 milliliters. So let's just go with that. I'm going to add 5 milliliters. And I'm going to try and get down here to the bottom. Try and be as scientific as I can possibly be. 5 milliliters of alcohol. And I'm going to add a half teaspoon. And I'm not going over. I'm going to try and make these like even, you know, pretty much like a half teaspoon, like not really overflowing or anything. And we'll mix it in. I'm going to get a new stick too. And that should be still really runny because 5 milliliters is quite a bit of alcohol. All right, so that's still pretty much like water thin. Yeah, that works a lot better. Okay, so let's go for another half teaspoon. We're doing science-y stuff here. We're experimenting. Still pretty runny. All right, so still just drips off the stick there. Go for another one. This is just to get a ratio. Then you could you know, just bulk it up if you wanted to kind of pre-mix and get stuff kind of ready. Now it's starting to kind of thicken up a little bit. Still drips pretty, you know, it's not like a paste, like it just runs off still. You want to make sure that you mix it in really well. Hey Lucy, how's it going? Yeah, but even eyedroppers are not really accurate. I'd rather have like a volumetric measurement personally, because you're going to basically mix it in a cup anyway. So, and like I said, this isn't particularly useful, and it's starting to kind of dry. Well, one thing to think about actually is your alcohol probably evaporates out of this stuff. It's already kind of drying up. So I don't know that this is like a long-term, you know, unless you capped it. I mean, this stuff is just drying out at this point. So that's something I didn't even really think about. All right, so how many do we do? Is that 3? Because that's like too much. Now it's starting to get kind of chunky here. I mean, this will work, but that's kind of unusable. It's still just kind of chalky and chunky. So I would have to add a little bit more. I'm going to add just a few drops here just to see if I can kind of wet this a little bit. That's not bad. So I would probably say, again, you know, it's going to dry out on me. But I think, you know, you could probably do 5 milliliters of alcohol to a teaspoon. It would be kind of liquidy, but you could kind of wait, and it would probably, that ratio would probably work. And then you could kind of let it, you know, thicken up a little bit. But you know that you wouldn't have little chalky chunks. You know, I mean, this is like a hard chunk again now, like a powder almost, but just kind of a little bit wet. So I think that 5 milliliters to a teaspoon of powder is probably a pretty good ratio that you could use to get things going, and then just try and, you know, get it mixed in. You would want it, you know, if you pre-mix it and let it sit there for a while, it's going to do what it, you know, did to me. It's going to kind of chalk up. You know, these are chalky chunks here now again. All right. And, you know, I don't think that you need to worry about just adding a little bit more alcohol to the mix. That'll just get you started. But I don't know that, I'm not sure that you could really use this as something where you could even put it in like a bottle, you know, because a lot of times I have these little extra bottles here that I use. But I have a feeling that the alcohol would probably dry out sitting in there. Here's our resin cup. And yeah, I mean, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, there's just little chunks of this stuff in there. It's just not, that's not good. That is definitely not the answer. So, let's see here. 2 powders to 1 alcohol. Nice. All right. And I want to just kind of keep an eye on this. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's chunking up a little bit here. I'll clean up my desk so I don't have this stuff all over the place. Yeah, you're gonna have to kind of keep it wet. I think you're better off keeping it more on the wet side to start out. And you know, like I was saying about adding this stuff in with, you know, your resin. One thing to keep in mind is some of it may evaporate before it like even cures. So look at this stuff. This is back to just powder again, basically. All right, so it kind of works. It's but you got to kind of move a little bit. You know. Unfortunately, alcohol. So I would not recommend using acetone. Acetone dries even faster. So that probably is not a good idea. Trying to think. I don't know that you really want to put, like, mineral spirits tends to not dry as fast as alcohol, but I don't think that you want to put that. I think that's going to react with the resin badly. So I wouldn't do that at all. I don't know. Should be kind of fun though. So let's just do some glow blanks. We'll do the 3 colors of the glow powders in a batch first, and then we'll do a 5 color I'm probably going to have to add more alcohol to this this cup here. And I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know if I could cover this, if it'll stay kind of liquidy. I want to make more. The thing is, I don't know what the ratio of powder to resin needs to be for something like this, but it seems like it's going to have to be pretty high. Brian's here. What's up, man? There shouldn't be any issues with the evaporation. What I'm saying is there's just technically going to be less. Some of it may actually leave, evaporate out of the resin before it even cures. Is basically what I was meaning or saying with that. So not too bad. Let's see here. I'm going to try and get this kind of like mixed and kind of most of this stuff kind of moist. I think I'm going to need more though, frankly. Maybe we'll do this one first. I'm going to do another. We're going to put even more in here and get it kind of prepped. See how this goes. So there's a teaspoon. I know I don't have 5 milliliters. You can't see that. But I don't know if that ratio really matters at this point. I think we just need to add a little bit of alcohol and moisten it up. I think you could just get away with just kind of, watch out, you don't really want to be breathing this stuff either. Moister the better. Oh, spilling it. Flinging it all over the place. We need more moisture. I need a deeper cup here. This is just messy. Just getting messy, guys. Should have done it in big cup. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is we're going to get this plastic cup out, and I'm just going to stick this stuff in the plastic cup as good as I can. It's going to be hard to get all this stuff out of here, but okay, close enough. I'll wash that thing later. Now, we're going to get lots of this stuff ready. And then I'm going to cover it with saran wrap and see if the denatured alcohol will actually kind of stay, not evaporate, basically. Okay. Let me go get some saran wrap and see if that'll slow down the evaporation a little bit. Maybe even just like a plastic baggie. Set that aside, and then I'm just going to get another one, and we're going to go for the green and just get that kind of ready. Again, it may evaporate. We may have to do the alcohol step like basically again, but it would be nice to know if we can have it kind of, you know, wet and ready to go before we start mixing resin, because this can get a little out of control if you're doing lots of colors like this. There may be some other solvent type of solvent that might, like what is it? Glycerin, I believe, is something that they put in a lot of. They use as kind of a vehicle with dyes and things like that. That would be interesting to try out and see. I don't know if it would break it down as much. But it doesn't evaporate, and I think that that's what, you know, like in these fluorescents, I think it's something like glycerin or some product like that keeps it kind of liquidy, because you gotta, you know, the way that this stuff works is you're just adding pigments, and you need to have some sort of a solvent or a vehicle to make it liquidy. All of these things start out as some sort of a powder. Like every one of the colors. Another one is the divine pigments. This style of pigment, it's just chunks of color that are dry that are mixed in with some sort of some liquidy thing. I think glycerin might be what it is. I don't know. I don't know for sure. I haven't talked to anybody that actually knows what they're talking about, and I certainly don't necessarily, but what I've heard through the grapevine. Okay, so we'll get those two set aside. We'll see how that works, if it works. And we'll start doing, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I don't anticipate the glow powders being particularly terrible. They usually aren't. They may take a little bit longer to mix in, but we'll have to see. We'll give it a test and see what happens. All right, let's get these covered so I don't spill them and make an even bigger mess. This stuff out of the way. All right, so these are what we're using. And I don't really have like offhand, I don't think I have a ratio for glow powder. It kind of depends. They're all a little bit different. Generally, the more glow powder you put in something, the more glow you're going to get. So, you know, that would make you want to add a lot of it. The problem is glow powder is it's basically like putting sand in your blank. And so it's not particularly, you know, the more that you put in there, the more glow you're going to get, but the more it's going to be like turning sandpaper. So, you know, you kind of need to have a little bit of a fine line. And the way that I approach glow powder is, the way I think about it, how often is it really going to be about the glow, you know, and how much glow do you need in a pen kind of thing. But, you know, being a pen, you're also, most people are probably going to put a tube in the middle Either way, pens end up, the material, no matter what kind of a pen, even if you did a bespoke pen, you're not talking about a very thick material at that point. So the amount of glow powder particles within that material, it's the same idea as like mica powder. You need to add even more mica powder for pen blanks because the material ends up very thin. So it's kind of a balancing act. You want to add enough, but I recommend don't overdo it, because then it can be really hard to cut. It'll dull your tools really fast, those types of things. So happy medium type thing. Glycerin. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I've seen glycerin in something, but I don't know. I would imagine it's fine. 6%. Yeah, well, there's all kinds of different ratios of how much stuff, but the thing is, it really depends how much additives. Additives, they can all have different amounts of vehicle in it, and that's really the problem. It's not the color, it's whatever they've put in there. So in this case, we mixed in some denatured alcohol. There's a certain amount, where if you go a little too high, it can be a problem. So, but you don't know unless you're the one mixing it. You don't know exactly how much of that stuff is in there. So I just want to say, when people throw out some kind of a number, that doesn't necessarily mean that applies to a specific, like every single product that's out there. So, okay. Now I'm not going to stick my hand in any of this stuff. Speaking of new mats, what I like to do is I like to actually I have mats on top of mats. That's how I do things, because I really don't like resin and junk all over the place. Because when I'm done with this, I'm usually making even more blanks. All right, so here's the Gatling mold. These guys are available on my website if anybody wants them. I won't lie, they're not cheap, but there's a lot of silicone in these. And this is, I just decided to sell. I didn't really make this to sell this product. I made this because I wanted 7 blanks for the blanks. I wanted more blanks than, were out there. The other alternatives are like 6, square and 6 blanks. I liked this setup a little bit better personally, so I just made my own and thought, well, I've got the master mold, I can sell these. But, it does take a little bit of extra silicone to do this size. Compared, like the P-Town subby ones are cheaper, is basically what I'm saying. So if all you need is a mold and you don't really care about, well, the other thing is the dimensions. The P-Town subby ones are only like 5 inches tall. And I didn't like that because the resin compresses. So, the air bubbles when you put them under pressure. So you end up, even if you top it off and overflow it, you're not, in some cases, even going to get a 5-inch blank. So these things are like 6 inches deep, so that you can get a pretty close to 6-inch blank, but I sell 5.5. So that's why I made these. Long story short. Okay, so let's get our notebook out. We're going to do some glow in the darks. Let's see here. All the glow. That's what we're doing, is all the glow, all the different ones. The first round, we're going to do all 3 glows. So that should be kind of fun. And then, and I just want to make sure everybody understands, these, the UFO green, the ones that the super thick things that were kind of a pain, these are just like a fluorescent or neon, or I don't know what they call it, but this is not glow in the dark. These big ones, not glow, no glow. It's these guys, and like I said, I linked to them. These are the ones with the glow powder in them. So we've got for anybody that's kind of didn't see the beginning, this was the reason I wanted to do this, what we're really looking at here. But I found that information on the listing for these things. So we got a pink one that turns to something. Let's see. We got pink to kind of a pink glow, pinkish orangish glow kind of thing. Let's see. Where's the... Turner's Warehouse has all the pictures. Let me go back. Okay, so we got, yeah, the pink turns kind of pink. This Daishin yellow, this guy is yellow to kind of like a more of a green glow. And then we have this one, their names are just ridiculous. Daitoku purple. And then we got purple to like a blue glow. That's kind of cool. So we're going to get kind of different glows. We got different colors. I don't know that pink, purple, and neon yellow is the most amazing looking blank on the planet. But whatever, we can see. Now, one thing that you can do, I do want to mention, is you could add a little bit of transparent dye to alter some of these colors and stuff. I don't even want to mess with that. Let's just see what these things look like. They're going to be kind of fun, I think, either way. I think that you could easily get away with just like pink and purple. That would be a pretty cool looking blank. Pink and yellow, probably cool. I think these three will still look cool. I'm just saying, you know, I don't know that I would have chosen these colors if I had a choice. But these were the only three that I could see that had the you know, during the day color in them. All right, so I just want to make sure. I'm not sure if there's any other ones. Okay, so today is, man, we've been messing around for an hour doing that stuff. June 3rd, and we're doing glow, eye candy, glow, and we're doing a little bit of neon. I think they call them neon colors. Okay, so number one, we're just doing glow. So this, I mix up 400 grams of resin total, and you get 7 blanks out of that. So we're doing 400, 200 times 2. We're using Alumilite Clear Slow. That's a 1-to-1 ratio, so that's why I write 200 times 2. And we've got 3 colors. I'm just going to go thirds, which I believe is 133. I might be wrong about that. Hold on, divided by 3. Yeah, 133. 133 grams for each color. And then I don't know how much we're going to have to put in. I'm kind of guessing a decent bit, but what I'll do is I'm going to just kind of keep adding some, and then we'll pull the stick out and see how it looks. I'm hoping that it's not going to take this entire jar to get it to the point where you can't see the stick through. We'll have to kind of see. That may cut this a little bit shorter than we thought if we use it all up in one. I don't think it's going to take the whole jar, but it may take quite a bit. We're doing Daishin yellow. And what I'm going to do is, I don't know how much this is going to take, so I'm going to come back to the notebook and add the notes about how much we actually put in there. And we got Momoro pink. And we got Daitoku purple. Okay. Get us a mixing bucket. Zero that out. We'll go wide so you can see what's happening. Let's do this. Yeah, that might look pretty cool with the blurple. Yeah, and I'm hoping, well, so, okay. One thing also that I need to, for anybody that hasn't used glow powder, again, basically it's like little sand particles. That's what the glow powder is. It's, I'm trying to think, it's, I can't think of what it actually is, the like mineral or the you know, the name of it, but think of it like, almost like it's like sandpaper particles. All right, so they're really heavy. So here's the problem, and Kid Cooper was talking about, you know, mixing it with, if I wanted to go to add just, you know, mica powder, standard mica powder, and this may be a problem with the other, you know, these guys even. I don't know how heavy these things are. Probably not particularly heavy, but standard micas are definitely not even close to as heavy as the glow powder chunks. So when you mix that in the resin and then you're pouring it, it may not be as bad pouring them vertically with smaller amounts, but if you're making a brick, the glow powder is all just going to sink to the bottom if you're mixing it in with mica powder. So the mica will end up on the top, and it's pretty much like it doesn't matter how long you wait. It's just so heavy that it's going to end up on the bottom of your brick. So we'll have to kind of see. Now, I have already done a test with something similar to this product. I think it was Casey, the wine country. They have some of these things where it's like a color thing, but glow. If you're just mixing 3 different colors of glow powder, those are all the same weight, or they should be pretty similar. So you can get swirling and not have that even in a brick. That's how we did it on the last time. So I'm assuming that the eye candy is the same type of thing. There's no other way to make glow than that whatever the stuff is made out of, and it's super heavy. So it'll be kind of an interesting experiment, seeing how, because the next round we're going to mix in this neon stuff, which shouldn't be particularly heavy. So just wanted to mention that. It doesn't a lot of times end up working out too well when you're mixing these glow powders with mica. You just don't get as good of a swirl pattern usually. So just wanted to kind of also mention that, something to kind of keep your eyes out for. Again, what I'm finding though is when you pour things vertically, especially in a smaller, this is only 3/4 inch diameter. A lot of times you can get things to kind of not just settle down. The other thing is, if you're pouring glow powder on the top, it's going to take a long time for it to sink all the way, 6 inches down. Compared to if you're pouring a brick, it only has to go like an inch to reach the bottom. If that. It's actually more like half an inch probably by the time you've poured it. So it just kind of tends to sink to the bottom. Vertical, you can get a little bit more. It's going to take longer for it to actually, sink to the total bottom. So just a couple of little random thoughts to share with you guys. There we go. All right, so 200 grams of Part A. And again, none of that matters if you're just using 3 of the same, 3 glow powders like this. And it would be the same if you're using just standard glow powders, even with these things, the colored ones during the day. So, a lot of you guys might be kind of, you might have used glow powder that looks more like this, where it's just kind of a whitish. It's probably not even going to show up on the camera. It's just like a white powder, and then this one turns aqua, and then there's a green one. That's what a lot of people have used in the past, is just like either the aqua or the green, just kind of standard glow powder. It's pretty much the same thing. You can mix that, and we can mix that in, and it would all kind of be about the same weight, I think. Should be anyway. All right, so zero that out. Fish tank sand. Yeah. 200 grams of Part B. What's everybody doing this weekend? Any cool plans? Tell you one thing I'm not excited about with that new rental house. Now I got to actually mow the lawn. What is that? House chores. What? I don't even have a lawnmower. I'm half excited about moving into a rental house. We were kind of forced to a little bit. My parents need even more help right now, and I live 30 minutes away from them right now. And we finally just decided it's just not going to work. Me having to drive that far to do stuff for them. So we're moving closer. It'll be nice to have extra room, but we were kind of hoping that when we move out of that apartment to actually buy a house. So it's tough. On wishing wells, that's cool. Putting in drip or irrigation, nice. Yep. Vintage and Nostalgia Festival. That sounds kind of cool. What all was it? What did you see there? What did they have? Did you get anything? All right, 133. So we can just put it in these cups. These don't even need to be like super exact or anything. We can get it close and that's fine. Close enough. Okay, so we got about 130 to 133 or 135, somewhere in that neighborhood. That is pretty close. So I'm actually going to get my quarter teaspoon measuring spoon thing out. And we're going to do this one at a time and just see how much does this really take to kind of get it on the opaque side. All right. So, and I don't know if you saw that, but I mean, it literally just sank like a rock to the bottom. There's a couple of chunks on the top, but the majority of this thing just literally dove. It was like a dive bomb straight to the bottom, which that tells you this stuff is definitely heavy, you know. When you put most dyes in, it kind of, you know, sinks kind of slowly. And micas usually just kind of float around on the top. So that tells you the difference in you know, it's actually the specific gravity, I think, is actually the correct term. But let's just call it's heavy. Some heavy stuff. So that's totally see-through. All right. Now, and that's the illusion. You know, in the cup, this looks fine. Like this would work fine for like a bottle stopper. But when you pull the stick out, I mean, it's totally transparent. So for a pen blank, it would just be see-through. So quarter teaspoon, not even close to enough. I'm going to go for, well, let's just do it a quarter teaspoon at a time. I'm guessing we're going to need like a teaspoon. It may not even get to the point where it's really opaque, you know, short of dumping the whole thing in there, which I don't really want to do. You could add some mica in with this as well. If I'm not really able to get this very opaque without sticking a ton of this stuff in there, yeah, I mean, it's see-through. So, and I don't think we really need more glow necessarily. So let's add a little bit of rose red mica. It's going to diminish a little bit. It's going to slightly diminish actually we're going to go with fuchsia. It'll slightly diminish the glow by adding these particles in, but I think it's going to be worth it. And I'm going to go kind of sparingly on this. I'll just add a kind of a small scoop of this stuff to start out and see how that goes. We just want to, because these are going to be pen blanks, I'd like to try and get these a little bit more on the opaque side, or at least to the point where you can just paint tubes and not have to worry about painting the inside of the blank. So that didn't do anything. Add a little bit more, another kind of small scoop. But I don't think that this is going to alter it to the point where we're not going to have glow. All right. So it's kind of starting to, I'm going to have to kind of increase because the glow powder is really not adding like almost any opacity to this. So I don't know. We'll have to kind of see. I'm going to leave the yellow, I think, or maybe the purple. I'm going to leave one of them as is. We're just going to try and dump a bunch of glow powder in and leave it. It'll be kind of transparent. But I'm hoping if we get two of these somewhat opaque, you can still see the stick through this, the grain, but it's not too bad. Let me add just a little bit more. I would probably add about a half teaspoon to 3/4 teaspoon if I was just using the fuchsia pink to this cup. Probably about 3/4. That should be okay. Let's see here. Let me wipe off my spoon. It's tough when you're trying to kind of see how much to add. You can kind of run out of time really quick. So I'm just going to go for it with a full teaspoon of this off the bat, which these jars are pretty small, guys. So I do want to, point this out. 1 teaspoon of this stuff is like half the jar almost. Let's see what a teaspoon did. It's mixing in fairly well. You could maybe do the alcohol thing if you wanted. That might make it a little thinner and easier to mix in, but I don't know. I don't think it's really fully necessary. And we're going to be waiting. That's not too bad, actually. I don't really see the stick through there. So a teaspoon might actually work. Let's go for a teaspoon. Let's go for 3/4 teaspoon first with the pink, or this purple one. And let's see what that does. So there's 3/4 teaspoons. Now this doesn't have any wood grain. Sometimes these HDPE sticks aren't the greatest to tell how opaque something gets. So, I was talking about combining mica with glow powder. Now, if you put the mica in with the glow powder, then you're fine. What I was talking about was like having a cup of mica only, no glow powder, and then having a cup of glow powder. If you try and mix those two things, the glow powder is all just going to end up on the bottom. The mica is going to stay on the top. Mica with the resin, that whole bundle just, yeah, that's not too bad, but I mean, you can really kind of still see. So let's go for 1 more teaspoon and see if, 1 more 1/4 teaspoon, and let's see if that gets this to a reasonably opaque point. So it's starting to warm up a little bit here. So right now the shop is 73 degrees. Typically it's 68 or 69 in here. And that may not sound like a significant difference, but 73 is already getting to the point where I need to kind of alter my temperatures that I usually pour at. So I'm probably going to wait till probably like 100 degrees. And so we're talking all of these things are Fahrenheit. So that's not too bad. I mean, that's somewhat opaque. I would definitely paint the tubes for something like this, definitely, because you'll see the tubes, but it's not like just transparent. That's how the pink was. The pink was like just see-through. Maybe if I would have put a full teaspoon of the pink in, it might have worked better, but this is much better. You're really not seeing the wood grain with the mica in there. And it was not a bad thing to do to kind of show that you can do that, Not a bad idea to just do that anyway. All right, so let's see. We're probably actually getting kind of close to the right temperature here. I don't know. Let's see where we're at. 98.5. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Wipe off my spoons. I was just checking our alcohol and neon. Looks like it's still liquidy. all my jars covered over here and get out of the way. Get my cups set up so I'm ready. Got that thing. Probably just leave it there for the view. Probably going to be the best view that you're going to get right there. 96. So this one's a little bit lower, but it's like spread out more compared to this cup. Higher and thinner diameter. So these ones are going to heat up a little bit faster usually. If you really wanted, so we're at a 101.5 on that yellow. And some of these materials may actually cause it to heat. Whoa, that's at 106. Okay, so we got to go. Let's do this. What I was going to say is if you want to make sure that all three cups hit the same temperature at the same time, again, you would want to mix all your resin together at once, like I did, and then split it out. But you would actually, I would recommend mixing up a little bit more than the mold holds to account for stuff left in your mold, and then actually pour it all out into the same size cups, or something similar like that. I don't know if that made any sense. Like, don't leave it in a giant cup. Ooh, I think these are going to be actually pretty cool. All right, now I'm just going to use kind of a thin stick. I'm just going to kind of give these a little bit of a stir here, just to try and swirl it up a little bit more. You could leave it, you might have, we might even leave a couple of these without, might leave a couple of them without a stir. I don't know that I'm going to actually get to turn multiple of these, but one thing you can do is just mark on the side. I'm actually going to do it on the top too, because I sometimes forget about this. I'm just putting marks on the sides. Those are the two that I didn't stir. I got to be honest, I don't think that I've actually, I think every single time that I do that, I haven't actually benefited from it. Like, I just demold them and I'm like, oh, I forgot to look which one was which. But it's something. So this top, I don't know if you can see that. I got to get this in the pressure pot pretty quick. But I mean, it's looking kind of cool. I think it's going to turn out all right. I think we got a winner here. I think these are going to be pretty cool. I think it's going to be really interesting seeing these with the neon. And I'm hoping that they turn out, they don't like sink, and the glows don't just totally sink to the bottom. But we could do, you could even, knowing that might happen, you could make the blanks where, and I got it in the pressure pot. Here we go. Sorry, I didn't switch it beforehand. Got it in the, I love this pressure pot. That thing is so good. You could just engineer it knowing that the glow powder is gonna sink anyway. Just pour, if you did 2 or 3 colors, do the glow powders in the bottom and then pour your micas on the top of the blank, and it's like you meant to do it at that point. You're not just fighting against, how this works. That might be depending on how bad it sinks. That might be a game plan to get more colors in your overall blank, but just not throughout, basically. So there's different ways you can handle these types of things. I'm going to clean up my mess here. I like to clean off the sticks right away. That way I can, you know, if I wanted to, I could reuse them pretty much like immediately. Now, for anybody that's kind of new to pressure pots and all that, you know, new to casting, let's say, so that's going to go in. So this resin is, I think the instructions say at this point to leave it in for 4 hours. For these molds, I will leave these in for 4 hours minimum. And I actually, at this point, I still don't actually even demold them until the next day anymore. One way you can get around this is you can actually post, you know, like what do you call it? Post cure. So basically take the whole mold out, don't demold your blanks, and then put it in the oven at like 150 Fahrenheit for, I don't know, 5 to 8 hours. They're going to be pretty much like fully cured at that point. So you can demold them and you don't run the risk of the blanks like deforming in any way. I like to leave these things in the mold and then not demold them until the next day, just to avoid, they're going to get hard enough to where they shouldn't be soft in any way. Like they're not going to deform in any way. But again, I sell blanks, and what I'm trying to do is I try to keep them as you know, round, not bent or anything like that as possible, because some people are making kitless pens out of these things. And you know, if there's like a big bend in it for some reason, like if I demolded these things in 2 hours, pulled them out, and then like left them, you know, resting on kind of a hump, they would probably end up a little bit bent if I left them there overnight. And at that point, the blanks are almost useless to somebody that's doing kitless pens. So I like to try and keep them in that, you know, in the mold, you know, perfectly round, basically, for, you know, overnight. I find that works pretty well. Now, if you're doing epoxies and other types of resins that take longer to cure, you're going to need to leave them in longer. But with Alumilite Clear Slow, you can take them out of the pressure pot in 4 hours for pen blanks like this. And then, like I said, just to make sure, if you want to make sure that they don't move at all, you can leave them in overnight in the mold. But you can take them out of the pressure pot in 4 hours. Okay, I don't know if that made any sense. That was a long thing. I got lots of things in my brain. Let's see here. Alumilite doesn't set up as fast when the person's doing a live stream. Well, it depends on what the temperature is in your shop too, you know. It's only 73. That's, you know, I'm not saying it's hot in here. It's 5 degrees higher than it normally is, like throughout the winter kind of months, which will make it set up a little bit faster. And also, and what that ends up doing is you're also starting at a higher temperature, which means that this liquid in the jug is thinner viscosity. That's the problem, because it's not like the temperature is really the driving factor with this resin thing, and the, like, when you pour, and for anybody that doesn't know, the temperature thing, the only reason we're doing that is to keep the colors from just bleeding together like immediately. You're waiting until the end of the working time, but I think that what's a little bit more important than time or the temperature even is what you're looking for is the right viscosity. Thicker viscosity means that it's not going to just kind of merge and move and blend together. So it's kind of a few factors. The timing part of it, working till the end of the working time to pour, or waiting until the end of the working time, that means also that there's a very short amount of time left until it hardens, like it's going from liquid to solid, and it's not, you know, the stuff won't move around at all. So that's one factor, but it also has to do with the reason we use temperature is because it's probably the most consistent way. You can check a temperature, and, you know, time is also another way to do it. And I used to do it this way, but that relies on you mixing everything exactly the same way every time. So like the amount of time you spend mixing, or it kind of depends on, I guess, when you start the timer, but time is kind of tough because it's hard to be very consistent with that. The temperature doesn't really lie. But what I find in my shop is when it starts warming up in the shop, I have to increase that temperature to get the same like effects or results basically. So just a couple random thoughts, things to think about. Basically, if it was 85 degrees in here, and I decided to pour at the same temperature that I would pour at in the winter, so like 68 versus 85 degrees. If I did that, if I pour, because I usually pour at like 90 degrees for these verticals, 90 or 95. If I did that and it was 85 in here, it would all just bleed together because it's already starting at a higher temperature and it's thinner viscosity off the bat. So there's lots of little nuances to resin casting, especially when you're trying to get like swirls and things like that. It can kind of be, I don't know, a little daunting sometimes, but once you know the tricks, it's not too tough, really. All right, let's see here. Yeah, I don't know if that's reliance on technology or people just kind of freaking out. It is kind of crazy. I mean, I remember in the summer, man, we were just gone all day, riding our bikes around town, going to the park, playing basketball, doing whatever. Not anymore, I hear. Okay, so my saran wrap method worked. It's still liquid. Let me flip over to this overhead. So you can mix this stuff up, and as long as you can kind of keep it sealed, it should stay liquid for you. Let's see. Let's look at this one. Yeah, still pretty liquid. Might have lost a little bit, but that worked pretty well. All right, so this next one, we're going to try mica powders as well as these neons. All right, which again, these are not glow in the, or what did I say? Sorry, glow in the darks, what we just did, plus the neon ones. But these two are not glow in the dark. These three are. All right, there we go. Come in when when it starts getting dark, you better be home. We all came home for dinner anyway, though. We're starving. We're like, okay, it's dinner time. See ya. Going home. Okay, so number one was glow. Let's see. We put 1 teaspoon. And I think we did about a half teaspoon of the first one. Let's see. No. Pink was about half teaspoon plus, I'm going to say like a half teaspoon of fuchsia, which is really hard to spell. 1 teaspoon. Okay. And we poured, another thing that I write down in my little notebook thing here. So, I mean, realistically, I'm just going to say that we poured those at around 105. One of them was kind of higher than that. The other ones were a little lower. So 105. And I also write, again, actually it's 74 degrees. I think it was 73 when we were doing this. I write what temperature it was in the shop too. I don't just say that I poured it at 105. That's meaningless. I need to know what the ambient temperature was as well. 105 doesn't really make, so I was saying that, you'd run into some issues if I poured at 10 or like 95 and it was 85 degrees in my shop. That would cause some issues with like bleeding, and it wouldn't work the same as pouring at when the resin's 95 when it's 68 in my shop. Now, if I waited till 105 when it's 68 in the shop, then you got some problems because it's probably going to be setting up on you at that point. So this number, I really think that you need to keep track of what the ambient temperature is as well. Unless you're in a stable environment, then it doesn't matter. If it's, if you keep it, if it's air conditioned and heated, and you keep it the same temperature all the time, then you could just write down the number and it doesn't really matter. All right, so number 2, which I wish I could, I've wanted to enclose the resin casting area for so long, because let me tell you, in the summer, it doesn't make my job particularly easy trying to make products like this and keep them consistent. But the cost to air condition and enclose this. This thing is just way too high. So we're doing glow plus neon. So let's see here. We're going to do, it's the same amount. So 400 grams, 200 times 2. This time we got 5 colors. And let's see here. We're looking at like 90, maybe, or 80 grams each. And we got UFO green. Now, this is going to be a little bit more difficult to figure out how much we're putting in there. I think I'm just gonna keep adding it until I feel like it's open. I'm gonna go for opaque. So I don't know. It may be like scoops or something, but it's not gonna be particularly repeatably accurate. And then the other one's called Firebird Red. Let's see. There we go. Which way do we do it? Firebird. And then we have, I'm just gonna yellow glow. I don't know what the name is. Pink and purple. And so I think we're gonna just go for a teaspoon of each of these guys again. I think I'm gonna put some micro starlight glitter in one of them, and maybe in the yellow. I don't know. I don't know if it matters. Maybe the pink. I think we'll put a little glitter in there. Why not? Okay. Wayne the Wood Turner, what's up? How's it going? All right, I'm just getting some extra little paper towel things ready so that I can wipe things up. Oh, get those boards glued up. Thanks for stopping by, Daryl. Have a great weekend. All right, so we're going to do 1 teaspoon of each of the glows. And I don't know, I'm going to have to come back and write in what we did. I'm going to just pour. 105 seemed like a pretty decent pour time. Everything worked out, so I'm just going to go with 105 again. That there. We need a mixing bucket. Okay, so now in this case, I'm going to split it into equal amounts. 80. Let's see here. Can I do the paper cups? These paper cups are cheaper. I think these will hold 80 grams. I'm gonna try them out. I think these will hold 80 and still have enough room to actually mix. You do have to kind of mix up the glow powders a little bit more, but I don't really think you need to do the alcohol thing. They didn't seem to be particularly bad. So I'm going to do pink plus. I'm going to add some micro starlight to the pink, and I'm going to actually add some starlight glitter to the purple. That'll be cool. Let's see how this looks. I'm curious to see how these things turn out. I think they're going to be pretty cool. Okay, now one thing you can also do to save a little bit of time. Dang it, I stuck the cup right in some resin. I'm going to get a new cup. So one thing that we can do is I'm going to actually preload these things. Let's see, what do we do? Did a teaspoon. I hope these things are big enough. Well, we're just going to go for it. So I'm going to preload I'm going to put a teaspoon of this glow powder in here ahead of time. And that'll just kind of save you a couple, a few seconds. If you got like a bunch of colors that you're doing and there's lots of steps and all this, just preloading your cups can kind of give you a little bit of an edge. Give you a little bit of time back, And I'm going to also go for, let's see, the pink. I'm going to add my micro starlight. I love this one. They're like super small holographic guys. So we're just going to add like kind of a small, I'm just going to call this like a, I don't know, small scoop. We're going to add that to the pink. And this stuff's available on my website as well, the micro and the regular. This is the regular starlight. I love these guys. They're so much fun. These are chunkier, the regular starlight. And we're going to add that to the purple. I'm just going to get myself a little scoop. How about we just zoom out so you guys can see what I'm doing? That would be a lot easier. There we go. Do a scoop of that. That'll just add a little bit more fun, We got room to have more fun, I think, right now. Yeah, glitter. Yeah, I know. It sounds like sand. And it sounds like it when you're mixing it. You can hear it kind of like the particles being scraped along the bottom of the cup. So this stuff is definitely, like I said, it's like sand. I mean, I forget what mineral or whatever it is. It's like aluminum oxide or I don't know, something. But you can see, I mean, so I just want to point out that, we're loading these guys up and you wouldn't need to use as much for different types of things. When there's a thicker amount of resin in the if you were doing like stoppers, you wouldn't necessarily need to add as much. But we're really loading this stuff up in these pen blanks, and I mean, I'm already out of purple. Like, it's pretty much gone. Like, frankly, I think there's not even enough left in these things for me to really care that much, so we're just gonna finish it off. I'm gonna revamp my notes, but let's just dump it all in because I think, why not? There's not really enough left for me to do anything with anyway. But it didn't take much, we got 2 batches of blanks and that's about it. Now, one thing I do want to point out also though, the reason we had to use a lot of this is because the daytime color would have just been like see-through in the resulting pen blanks. Once you get it done, turned and all that stuff, there just really wouldn't have been much there for you to see during the day. Now, if you were going to be doing, if you use just the regular types of glow powder, which Eye Candy sells it, and other brands where it's just like the white normal stuff, but it's just going to look kind of milky white during the day, and then you get like either aqua or whatever color at night, or in the dark. You don't necessarily need to use as much, and so one thing you could do is you could add, maybe a little bit of the fluorescent dye to the, the pink glow and try and get more opacity. We added some mica powder. That's going to, anything that you add is going to slightly diminish the amount of glow effect that you're getting. But again, you'd have to kind of play with this to see, what's the best ratio for daytime look as well as, glow. So the more glow powder you put in though, the more glow you're going to get. So these things should be pretty darn bright since we really loaded them up. Okay, so we got 3 of these cups like preloaded. We got these 2 are going to be for the fluorescent. I don't want to preload those because I have no clue how much I'm going to have to add. I guess they call it neon. So I think we're ready at this point to mix some resin. Let's do this. All right, 200 grams. Actually, I'm going to mix up let's see here, like 215. I was having a serious struggle in my head between 210 and 220, so I'm just going to split the difference. And the reason I'm adding a little extra is because to this big cup is because I don't want to be mixing any of the final color in this giant cup. 80 grams is going to be a very small amount spread over, a pretty wide radius. So it's going to take much longer for that cup to heat up compared to one that has 80 grams in something that's thinner like this. You're going to have more mass kind of all in one place. So hopefully that made sense. It's kind of like the idea of if you just dumped it, a super thin layer, like you were just covering a tabletop, it's going to take hours and hours for it to actually finally set up compared to, a mass of it in a cup. The more resin that's kind of packed all together, the hotter the more heat it generates, which means the faster it's going to cure. So, a super giant cup with a little bit of resin in is going to heat up slower than something smaller like that. All right, so 215 part B. Oh, I went way over. I was thinking about dinner. 223, okay. Pro tip, pay attention when you're pouring. All right, so I need to add 8 grams of part A to even this back up. Close enough. I don't want to overdo it again. All right. Get this cup mixed up, and then, like I said, I'm going to pour it into all these guys. I'm totally going to spill one of these if I don't get them out of my way. Nice. It's like salt, it can help anything. It really is pretty good. That's why I bought it. Once I found because I was looking for that specific thing, what I found with a lot of the glitter, because there's, I could have bought this stuff, not bought a lot of it and just kept buying from someone else. But what I was worried about is even if I found, I had found like the perfect, glitter, the perfect thing. Not necessarily for that one, but I've found like the perfect product from certain retailers that sell glitters and things, and like they would only have it for they would never carry it again, or like weird things would go on, and I'm like, okay, I just want to buy a lot of this stuff, so I have it, and then I bought so much that it just kind of made sense to also sell it. But sometimes that's maddening when certain retailers don't keep something. Ugh. You're like, but I need, or they change it somehow, and you're like, thanks. Could have just left it. Okay, so we need 80 grams in each one of these cups. Oh, nice. 80 is perfect in these cups. Okay. There'll be plenty of room to mix. Make sure to zero out your scale if you've already preloaded these things. They may not weigh the same. And so the reason that I added more resin to start off with is there's going to be some left over in the cup. So I wouldn't have gotten 80 grams, in each one of these cups. There would have been some left over in the big cup. Oh, went a little over on that one, but that's okay. Not a big deal. All right, now these guys are 80. That's good. Oh, so I mixed up more than I needed, but that's okay. That one's 85. Maybe 205 or 210 next time. Okay. I'm going to get these guys mixed up with the glow powder first. Maybe not right over these other ones. We'll see how that looks. The Starlight might have kind of gotten a little mixed. Like, I don't know if we're going to... Yeah. No, it is sparkly. It's good. Now, the more that you load this up, the more you're going to probably have to like stir it to get it all mixed in. Sometimes it helps to just kind of stir it pretty good and then set it aside. And some of the particles will just kind of either float to the top if it's a mica powder, or sink, in this case, probably to the bottom. And if you go back to it then mix it, it might be a little easier at that point. Yeah, we got some little glitter chunks in there. That's cool. We'll see how these end up in the end, you know. May not get as much, you know. Yeah, I don't know. It may not be as amazing as adding it to like a mica powder. We'll see though. Okay, I'm just going to set that aside. This guy going. All right, who's ready to see what these things look like? I wish we could like demold these like right away. That would be cool. The one thing that I don't like about casting on a live stream, you're kind of like, okay, there it was. I don't know what they look like. Unless I did it like, you know, baking show style, cooking show. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. So we got our UFO green. And I'm just going to kind of scoop some out and add it and see where we're at. And then, you know, try it again if it's not dark enough. I guess I can just get rid of this thing. That's like, I could do like drops. Yeah, you can definitely see the alcohol in there. Okay, so let's see if the Firebird is a little bit thicker. Not really. I'm just trying to kind of, it's still very thin. I'm a little hesitant to get too crazy adding more because I don't want it to get too thick again. But I think we need to add some more powder to this to get things kind of moving. Just too thin as it is. Probably would have been smart to, I didn't realize it was this thin. So the saran wrap did its job for sure. I was kind of expecting it to, some of it to maybe evaporate. I think you could easily get it to exactly the consistency you want, and then put saran wrap on it, and you'll be good to go when it's time to pour, you know, to mix it up. So that's a little bit better. That's more like paste. So let's just kind of, I think we're going to need a lot of this stuff to get to the point where I want it. It's going to be messy though, I'll tell you that. That's not bad. It's getting fairly, that's really not that bad. That's pretty opaque. I'm gonna add a little bit more just because, but I think that's good. Oh yeah, that's looking good. I like that. Okay, so I need to add a little bit more green. Let's get the UFO green out. And we'll mix that up. All right. Let's see where we're at here. I cover the Firebird again. Ooh, look at that. Looking pretty good. Still need a little bit more, I think, to get it to the opacity that I want. Yeah, add a little bit more. Ooh, that's looking pretty good right there. Oh yeah, we'll have the demolding short. Definitely. We'll be flipping these things. We'll be blasting them right out of them. I'm going to add some more. Just because I can. All right, I got to check the temperature on these things. Probably getting kind of close. 98, according to that gun. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So we're done with the UFO green. So anyway, hopefully this was kind of helpful to just to see what the deal is with these kind of neon colors. Hopefully, you know, that adding the alcohol trick will be helpful. I have a feeling you're going to end up kind of wasting some of it. Maybe you can keep it covered and it won't dry out. I mean, I guess you wouldn't waste it. You just need to add more alcohol to the mix. So this is at 102 already. Certain additives, that's at 105 it says. So I think we're pretty much ready to pour these things. 102. That's not a cup. Where's this one at? 101. Seems like the glow powder stuff is kind of heating it up a little bit faster. Whoa, that says 110. Doesn't seem right. Huh. Okay. Let's I'm gonna pour these guys first. Let's see. Let's get these things arranged a little bit. And we're gonna see how this works. We're gonna go for the neons as well in the middle of the blank. These may end up kind of floating a little bit, but you never know. I like the green added in there. And I'm pouring pretty heavy. A lot of times my typical pen blanks, like the Color Swirl vertical pours, I don't usually dump as much per like pass, but kind of running out of time here. And in this case, I kind of want to have bigger blocks of color, I guess you might say. Looks like we're going to have extra resin too. I guess you got to figure that, you know, you're also adding a bunch of sand, and I loaded these things up, so we got some extra for the Happy Fun Cup. Okay, I'm gonna get this in the pressure pot right away. Actually, let's do a quick stir. Actually, let's not even stir these at all. See how they turn out. That'll kind of also help us see, you know, how did the you know, did the neon float or move or do anything? And it'll just give us an idea of how they look. I'm going to leave this overhead, and we're going to pour these guys into the Happy Fun Cup. Thick. These are thick. And some green. Not too shabby. Unplug that. I'm going to set the Happy Fun Cup aside, and we'll go to the regular cam here. So, yeah, that's a Happy Fun bucket. Yeah. I got a few of those. One project that will be turning on the stream sometime, maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see. It's so tough. There's just not enough days in the week to get all the things that I want to do done. But one of these days I do want to turn a Happy Fun Cup. I want to make a little pencil pen pot thing. So it's just a kind of a simple project. But it's also, those are a really fun project for anybody that's not made one before. Very simple, just drill it, you know, and then, you know, it's a fun hollowing project, a really great way to get a little bit of experience hollowing. There's not a lot of, there's really no pressure on like the shape. You don't need to do a lot to it, you know, so it's a really good kind of beginner project for, you know, learning to hollow something for like a hollow form type project, or you know, a very beginner stepping stone for something like maybe like a vase type project, hollow form. But it gives you some skills, and it's a quick project, and pretty easy. And you know, if you get the negative rate cutters, it's a super easy project. Once they came out with the negative rate cutters for, you know, Easy Wood Tools, that is what got me interested in hollowing stuff, because every time I had tried it before with standard cutters, I would have just a devil of a time. Probably because I would come in and I'm not hitting it at the right, level, it's easy to kind of, have the tool at the wrong angle and you're not hitting it right in the middle. And I would have like nothing but problems, catches galore, and I just flat out hated. I just wouldn't do it. I really hated hollowing stuff. Then they came out with the negative rate cutters, and so on resin, and this is, for resin stuff more, because I had turned bowls and stuff, so wood was a little bit different, but for resin projects, I couldn't stand hollowing. It was just a nightmare. I would be white knuckled with the tool, like just waiting for a catch. And so the Easy Wood Tools negative rate cutters really make that just, it's a joy with those. So for doing hollowing and stuff. So anyway, pretty fun stuff. So Steven's asking, is there any minimum distance you shoot your thermometer? No, it has nothing to do with the distance where this thing is. What has to do with is there's different temperatures in the cup. So if I'm shooting it on the rim, that's going to be probably cooler than I like to aim at the dead center. But where an infrared thermometer actually sits, how far away from it, that doesn't matter at all. It's going to give you the same, like. If that were the case, then if I shot this and this says 76.5, if I stand way back here and hit the same spot, 76, I mean, I'm just trying to, yeah, so the rim is 76, 76.5, or let me do it here. Let me put it right next to it, 76.5, and then let me stand across the room. Yeah, there we go, 76. It is a little bit lower. Maybe there is a difference. Shouldn't be. Huh. Well, maybe I need to get a new thermometer then. That's interesting. I think my thermometer is just kind of not particularly good, but that shouldn't matter how far away it is. Well, is there any instructions? Here's what I would say. Just to make sure that you don't mess anything up, I would try to keep it about the same. That might be pretty good advice. I didn't think about that. That one cup was definitely higher though. SIG, I don't know. It really kind of depends. That may be so heavy that there's no temperature that you can actually get that done. It depends on how heavy it is. A different way to do things like that is to actually hang it, fill the resin up, and basically you're going to do 2 pours. Fill it up to where it's covering like half the object, and then put it in the pressure pot and let it, cure. But you actually... This is a case where you want to pull it as early as possible. And I've actually, if you're doing clear, multiple pours, the problem is you're going to get a little bit of a witness line. But I did a bunch of tests trying to get dice actually, suspended in the middle of like a stopper. And to be honest, Alumilite Clear Slow was the best, or even Alumilite Clear, whichever one, Clear or Clear Slow. And so what I would do is I would put it in the pressure pot, pull it in like an hour. It's going to be hardened up enough to where you can pull it out, and then you want to immediately pour the rest of it on there and cover it. Now, you can kind of see a little bit of a witness line, but I got to be honest, it's not a big deal. It's not that big of a deal, I don't think. Most people are probably not even going to notice it. So that's how I would do it, probably, if I was trying to do that. Now, you can try to get it to suspend, and I don't know, it depends on the ambient temperature, that depends on the resin you're using. You're going to just have to do experiments to see if you can get it to stay. One other thing you can do is use actually fishing line. You can still see fishing line in resin, but that might not be a bad way to do it. I mean, that actually kind of goes with the theme anyway. So you could just hang it in the middle with fishing line and just cast the whole thing and not worry about any of it. So let's see here. And Steven was asking, do I worry about exceeding the 5%? Again, we already talked about this. 5%, it depends on what you're talking about. Not really, not particularly. Well, I take it back. I don't go over 5% usually, but it also depends on what you're exactly talking about, because the way that Alumilite defined it back in the day, they did not want to, let's see here, it even says on here. Back in the day, they used to say 5% factored against the part A only, so like half the resin. So they aren't hard and fast rules, and a lot of times, you know, with divine pigments, I'll add a little bit more, but you don't want to add like 10%. You're going to have problems. You can always test things out. Just do a test batch, add however much percent you want to a smaller, you know, sample. And if it doesn't cure properly, you got problems. And the more junk, you know, stuff like that you add, solvents could cause like, well, I guess anything really. Because like even I've kind of noticed like with these kind of like liquid pigments, if you really load it up, the blanks seem, at least in the beginning, a little bit on the softer side, right? Whereas if you loaded something up with, you know, denatured alcohol, there was a good amount of that in there, most likely it's going to tend towards like a more brittle blank. So it just, you got to kind of experiment, but you don't want to, that's a good rule of thumb, like 5% factored against the resin. That's a good rule of thumb, but there's wiggle room, I guess, is what I'm saying. For the most part, though, well, and then mica powders that doesn't apply to micas. I just want to say that's like dyes, alcohol ink, you know, this stuff that I was doing. I was nowhere near 5% with anything that I did, but the glow powder, not a problem. That is not something that applies to that, you know, ratio thing. It's liquids, and what it is it has to do with the binder or the vehicle or the solvent that's in it. That's what can cause the problems. So you could dump an entire jar of mica powder in 50 grams of resin and it's going to cure just fine. So I think they might be pretty cool too, Brian. I don't know. We'll have to see. Oh yeah, I guess the farther away, that's true. There's other particles in the way that are bouncing around and doing stuff. So anyway, guys, I hope you had fun today. I had a blast. I can't wait to see these things, how they turn out. So I'll probably demold these, the video, the short, and what is it, shorts on YouTube and Instagram Reel, and I'm posting on TikTok if anybody's there. I don't really hang out there, but whatever, you know, if you want to check me out there. I'll be posting the video of demolding these so we can kind of see. Now, the tough thing about the vertical pour blanks is the outside doesn't really tell the story. That's just whatever ended up on the outside of the blank, and a lot of times it looks terrible, honestly. So we'll have to kind of see. It's really going to be more about what's on the inside of these blanks, and I'm pretty excited. The outside can give you an idea, but the inside is really where the money is, you know. So anyway, I had a blast doing this. So what I was saying is I'll post those maybe tomorrow. Like I was saying, we're starting to already move. We got a storage unit that I got to go through, so I might be doing that tomorrow. So long story short, the shorts and videos and all this stuff of the demolding, again, you can find it on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube shorts. Might be on Monday this time, but be looking for that. I'll post that. It'll be pretty fun. I can't wait to see these things. So anyway, yeah, maybe make a fountain pen. I don't know. Again, I have so many things stacked up right now that may not work. Definitely not on the stream. I don't know. We'll make something though, for sure. It'll be cool. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. Get in the shop, do some resin casting, do some turning, make something, have fun, and I will see you guys on the next live stream.